Well, it was another test of resolve for investors. While all the major indices closed off the session lows, you can take a look at a 5-day chart and it will underscore that, well, we're starting to get these frequent palpitations. Of course, the bottom line for now, we still saw true grit. I mean, consider the Dow at 1 point today was off 168 points. But there are signs of major shifts in breadth as the market is really starting to get shaky here. More losers than winners. In fact, on the 52-week lows, outnumbering the highs. On the New York Stock Exchange, 113 new highs, 137 new lows. On NASDAQ, 71 new highs, 98 stocks hit new 52-week lows. That's not a good sign. Moreover, utilities remain the hottest sector in the market, hitting a fresh all-time high, up 17% in 2017 alone. That is not supposed to happen to the market's safe haven. Like the stock market, small business confidence holding on, but again, beginning to drift. The latest read from the NFIB was slightly less than anticipated, but there were some strong highlights. Job openings currently up 5 points, a good time to hire up 6 points, and expected retail sales up 6 points. So there were some good things, but a lot of anxiety. And of course, we trace that back to Washington, D.C. and whether the GOP leadership can actually deliver. Now, the Senate throwing in the removal of the individual mandate late today helped to shore up this market. Couple that with President Trump returning from his 12-day, 5-country Asia tour and heading straight to Capitol Hill to close his deal could be great. Speaking of which, while it's too early to know how much of Trump's tour has changed the dynamics of trade, the commander-in-chief scored big time this day because he engineered the release of 3 members of the UCLA basketball team who were arrested in Beijing for shoplifting. As for the market, I think it's still poised for a huge rally to the upside, but I think it could be selective. It all will boil down on whether the Republicans can deliver or not. Of course, the big question is, will they? Here to discuss, Shelby Holliday, a senior video reporter at the Wall Street Journal. The individual mandate, $338 billion over 10 years.
Right.
I was shocked and pleasantly shocked and surprised that the Senate decided to throw that in there. How does that change the dynamics?
Well, I'm really curious to see how investors react, because on one hand, it actually adds more revenue. It gives the Senate more room to work with all of these tax cuts. It's a little counterintuitive because you would think repealing the mandate means you're not forcing people to pay taxes, which does create revenue, but you're also not giving all of these people subsidies and you're not paying out large sums to a lot of Americans for their health insurance, so it does create a surplus.
Right. You could also argue those subsidies help push up premiums as well, because like any industry, every time they're subsidized, prices seem to go high.
It's true, and the costs are expected to rise next year anyways, regardless. But this does give, bottom line is it gives the Senate more room to work with in terms of tax cuts. However, we saw how tricky tax reform was last time, and so now the big fear is, could the Senate actually pass this if you're throwing in this little health care wrench? Or could you get 2 senators who are opposed to it and sink the whole thing? Well, I guess it would take 3 senators, but
would take 3,
would it sink it?
We'll see. I mean, because it's, I know the House would probably cooperate. I think they're ready to go no matter what.
Right, and the Senate said they whipped it. They believe there is support. But it does add this big question mark to the equation of what does it do? It also, but it does help them avoid the bird rule.
Shelby, we're going to come back to that in 1 second, but the House Rules Committee actually beginning to hear a hearing right now to prepare this reform bill. This is the House floor. We're looking. This meeting, by the way, is expected to last at least to midnight, perhaps even later. So obviously a lot of work to be done. That is a live look at Capitol Hill. The House working overtime to get this done. Shelby, what were you saying?
Boring day in D.C., huh?
Yeah. The market.
I mean, it really does hinge on tax reform. We saw some bad news for oil. We saw there will be weaker demand. We got some negative data from China. But generally, the entire world is looking at this tax reform bill and whether or not it'll pass.
No, we hear the term do or die all the time. This time it's real. Thank you very much, Shelby.